Good morning, evening, afternoon. It's finally here. I've been working on this script for a while now. I had to shorten it and tweak it so I can make it natural for a video. If you want the original script, I'll put it in the description. If you want to read that, it's probably more in detail, I guess. Anyway, today we're talking about Astro City. It's a comic book written by Busiek, illustrated by Brent and has cover art done by Alex Ross. You might know Alex Ross from Kingdom Come. He does a lot of cover art for a lot of comics, DC, Marvel, Dynamite. I think he does some Dark Horse too sometimes. I don't know. Kurt Busiek is known for Marvels. He did that with Alex Ross too, actually. That's a similar vibe to this comic, Astro City. So you might like that if you like this. So try it out. Okay, so before we get into nitty gritty, I'm about to expand your mind right quick. Teach you a new term. Because Astro City is like built a little differently. You guys might know of a deconstruction, but Astro City is a reconstruction. So basically what it means is, to fully explain it, deconstructions break something down to criticize it, and then reconstructions take that knowledge that you gain from deconstructions and recontextualize it to make something new and respect the old stuff, I guess. Well, you get what I'm saying, right? Why am I asking you? You can't respond. Anyway, Kurt Busiek has a quote addressing this in his it's actually in volume 1, I think, of this volume in the foreword. I might butcher this, so don't bother me. If you want to read it in full, it's in the description again, like I said. And it says, "It strikes me that the only real reason to take apart a pocket watch or a car engine, aside from the simple delight of disassembly, is to find out how it works. To understand it, so you can put it back together again better than before, or build a new one that goes beyond what the old one could do. We've been taking apart the superhero for 10 years or more. It's time to put back together and wind it up. Time to take it out on the road and see what it will do." End quote. And you'll see characters who exhibit this in the comic. These are called XPs, or exported characters. Something like Donkey Kong and Wreck-It Ralph, or Rey from The Force Awakens to Luke Skywalker, kind of like that. For example, we have the character Samaritan, who you'll see later, who is a XP of Superman, or Lady Victory, who is an XP for Wonder Woman. Stuff like that. There's more of it. I'm not going to go into the whole detail, but you'll see them as we go on. In addition to this, Astro City is an anthology series. So basically, each different issue is it's its own self-contained story. That they might affect each other. They might have the same characters in each one, but each story stands on its own. And even past that, each one won't just be like superheroes fighting supervillains like regular campy stuff. It'll be one issue is about a reporter. Well, it's really about him talking about his past, and another issue is about a villain, or a henchman really, who's scared for his life. So I'm gonna give a basic overview for each issue, because later I'm gonna go into depth, more spoilery, I guess. If you don't want to see that, or hear that portion, you can just skip that later and just stick with this. So the first issue is about the Samaritan. Like I said before, he's a Superman XP. It's basically about his everyday life, what he goes through in his daily grind. The second issue is about the reporter, like I said before. Basically, it's about his past and how he got his position as a head editor, I guess. Third issue, we have a very paranoid thief who has a secret. Well, he found out a secret, rather, and he's scared for his life that someone knows that he found out the secret. The fourth issue is, I think, the most in-depth issue. It's basically about a lady who is torn between two communities, and her family and the neighborhood she wants to go to, and her ideal area, I guess. I don't know how to explain it, but you'll see what we get later. I like the issue a lot. It's probably my favorite one, really. The fifth one is about a alien who's hiding, the Skrulls, I guess. Basically, he hides as a human, and he's taking reconnaissance on Astro City to see whether or not his race of aliens or species, whatever, I don't know, they should invade Earth. The final issue, because it's 6 issues, it's a mini-series, is about a dinner date between Samaritan and the Winged Victory, like I mentioned earlier. She's a Wonder Woman XP. It's about them discussing their daily lives. Not their daily lives, but their lives and what they do, and how they function, I guess, in society. On to covers. So, in my opinion, the best covers in this volume are issues 2 and 6. 2 has it's a very campy feel. I'm really fond of that. It reminds me of old pictures of Stan Lee at his office. And we have issue 6, which is very beautiful in my opinion. I like the blues and the red and purple. And like I like how the moon in the background makes the shading on the hands you see dark. You can see like I don't know how to describe it. It just looks good, bro. It just looks good. It just looks shiny and nice, man. I don't know how to explain it. It looks great. These covers are a lot unlike what I'm used to with Alex Ross. Normally his covers, at least now, are a lot more statuesque and dynamic. That's also the way I don't really like Alex Ross a lot of the times. His interiors, at least, his covers are normally fine, but they come off as like they look nice, but you can't like do anything with that. You can't put it on the wall. Like you just look at it and be like, oh, that's cool, and that's it, you know. The art style, at least, I felt nothing in particular about it. I felt that the art style was kind of mediocre, and that only thing I did find attractive was the use of black in the shading. But I thought it kind of came off kind of muddy when the characters were wearing metallic stuff. And well, outside of that, I love the designs though. The guy Jack in the Box. He reminds me a lot of Creeper, who's a creation of the late great Steve Ditko. He made Spider-Man. He made Blue Beetle. He made I think Question too. I'm not sure about that one though. I like how they both share like a sort of clown jester motif, and it's like a lot of greens and a red and a yellow, I guess. I don't know. It just also has nice juxtaposition. That's a big word. With the rest of the issue, because it's like really dark and like it's full of fear, I guess. And it's a lot of it makes a lot of contrast between the clown motif and the city that's a lot dark. And also like the Samaritan design too. Normally I don't like not Superman designs, I guess to call them, that are like based off of his but not really his costume. But I don't know, man. I like Samaritans. It's just I like how the cape breaks up the monotony of everything. But I do think it's too much blue. That's probably why I have Superman's costume too, where I think he needs the trunks. I'm an avid trunk supporter for Superman. I think he needs the trunks because it breaks up the blue and it makes it look less, I guess, solid, blocky. I don't know how to describe it. Okay, that's it for art. Now here we are, back to writing. And before I get into spoilers, I'm just gonna say, I don't think this comic is very deep, but I don't think it has to be deep. It's kind of comfy. All the issues are tight and well written. They're nice. They do what they want to do. I mean, I don't think everything has to be deep, you know. I don't want to go on a tangent though. So, but really, this comic is trying to give us like a different perspective of what superhero comics are like, I guess. Oh, lives and like the inside of the world, the universes. You get what I'm saying? Whatever. On to the spoilers. Warning you now. Spoilers, man. You got like 5 seconds, something like that. I don't know. Time's on the screen. One more tip before we start. I'm going to talk about 4 last. Issue 4, I mean, because I think that one has the most substance behind it. Anyway, on to the first issue. Like I said before, it's a slice of life story. So it's basically him doing his regular everyday stuff. There's a lot of references to Superman in the comic. We see Samaritan's regular persona, Asa Martin, working at a newspaper place. Office, I guess? Whatever. Called the Astro City Rocket, which is clearly a reference to Daily Planet. And he works with a superhero group named the Honor Guard, which is of course a Justice League reference. Particular thing I liked about this comic was the way Superman would use to creatively hide his powers. Oh, not Superman, sorry, Samaritan. It reminds me of later works by Grant Morrison, and where he does stuff like speak in a lower octave, or a higher octave, sorry, and like maintain a slouch position, so he would look smaller and less, smaller build, I guess. You know what I mean? I have another quote here from Morrison. He gave this to Playboy, and I shall get it right now. Again, I might butcher this, so if you want to read it later, just check the link below. It's in the script I put in there. Anyway, it goes like this. American writers often say they find it difficult to write Superman. They say he's too powerful, you can't give him problems. But Superman is a metaphor. For me, Superman has the same problems we do, but on a Paul Bunyan scale. If Superman walks the dog, he walks it around the asteroid belt because he can fly in space. When Superman's relatives visit, they come from the 31st century and bring some hellish monster conqueror from the future. But it's still a story about your relatives visiting. End quote. And I agree with this view. I think Superman should be like this. He is Superman, you know, like he is. What makes Superman interesting to me is that he doesn't think himself above people. Like he's still a person inside, you know what I mean? Like he's Clark Kent, then Superman. Before I continue on, I think that one of the main things I like about Astro City is that it's very grounded in that it's not like realistic, it's in like the real world, but it's like realistic in the context of that universe, I mean, which makes it very interesting. I think it's a breath of fresh air to see that for Superman, and to have this as the first story, because Superman is like the quintessential superhero. It makes it a nice thing, I guess. I find it very fitting, as Kurt Busiek said before, he's here to put the genre back together, so to say. On to issue 2. Now for this one, you should know that it's a flashback, and the plot is more relevant to what happens in the story, or in the comic, I mean. So I'm gonna do like a play-by-play for this one, like for the first one. Basically, a reporter finds a fight between the hero and a villain, and he ends up being teleported with the hero into a trap. And the wizard he's fighting summons an army of sharkmen to fight him. And then the hero was like, too bad I brought my friends. And so this is actually the first appearance of the honor guard, like in history. And the reporter is stunned because all this stuff is happening. And then at the end, he's teleported back, and he tells his boss and his company, and they can't corroborate any of it because he got teleported away. Check where the event actually happened, and all they found was a shark, the body of a shark rather. And so what happens is the editor does not let him publish the story because there's nothing there. And so all he can do was publish a story that some sharks escaped from the aquarium somehow, and their corpses were found in the subway. I found this story to be the most charming because the reporter becomes a head editor later, like outside the flashback, and another editor comes in when he's new, and he asks him why he has the story on the thing. And the head editor has so much pride in the story that he found, and I just thought that was cute. It was fun. All of it's fun. That's the height of critique right there. It's just fun. Some more stuff of note. I like the 2 designs in this issue: Old Soldier and Silver Agent. Silver Agent, I thought it was kind of funny because like it's a reference to Silver Age, but I didn't catch it until like my 3rd or 4th reread, to be honest. Especially because it's set in 1959, I think, something like that. And so I really should have caught that, how it was the play on words. And I just like how Old Soldier, I'm not gonna front, he just kind of looked cool. On to issue 3. I don't have much to say here, but it's very straightforward. Basically, the henchman finds out the hero's secret, and he thinks that the hero knows that he knows his secret, so he's scared of the hero finding him and catching him, beating him up or something, I don't know. The end of the issue is the henchman leaving town because he has too much anxiety and he just wants to get away from everything. I think it made for a neat narrative and a cool look at something you don't see often, but again, not much to say other than that. Now, issue 5 is like a scroll type of thing. I don't know if you've read Marvel much, reader, viewer, whatever. Basically, they're aliens who they're body snatchers, basically. They take the form of whoever they replace, and they act as someone normal day life and stuff, for espionage, taking over planets and that kind of thing. So basically, the plot is an alien is investigating Earth to see if it's worth invading. So on a whim, he decides to stalk a guy named Crackerjack, who's like a local hero. And so he sees him on his routine, and he sees him doing all this like selfish, cowardly stuff. And even though he sees like the good in him still, and trying to do his best and trying to perform and stuff. And he sees himself in that, him and his people in that. And when he sees this, he decides to stop, and that Earth should be saved, I guess. But in the end, he sees the people who were mocking in the middle of the comic. They called him like lazy and stupid and stuff or whatever. And he sees them like praising him at the end because they find out who he is, or the media finds out who he is, because the building burns down and he does his best to help them out and save their lives. And from these people, he deems that Earth isn't worth saving after all because he's mad at them. I thought this was interesting. It was just kind of neat, I guess. That's about it. Okay, on to the next. Issue 6 is Dinner Date between Samaritan and Winged Victory. And I think this issue is interesting because it has like a sort of moral quandary. Well, she has a stance for women's rights that's very strong, and it shows in what she does and the actions in the universe. So basically, she has a school for women that houses homeless women too, I think, that have been hurt by sexual assailants and harassers and something like that. And they teach them self-defense, and they house them. They give them, I think, free room and board. But yeah, I mean, Samaritan's like, why do you do this stuff for women but not men? Because he doesn't think it's fair. I sympathize with them because I can understand the thought process that men wouldn't be very conducive to the healing process of these abuse victims. might bring them back to old unhealthy habits with all these like hurt women in one area. Oh, this is also interesting because Wing of Victory is herself insecure in that she fights to be a symbol for other people so they can be a symbol for her. So if she didn't do this, she would think less of herself. This also shows in her exchange with Samaritan later. They have a talk and she says that she doesn't want people to be weak. Well, she doesn't want to be weak rather, as she felt before she had the powers. Last but not least, we have issue 4. Like I said before, this is probably the deepest issue. It has a very strong theme of symbols in it. It relates superheroes to supernatural wards, or spiritual wards, I guess is better to say. A similar example to this would be like Zack Snyder's Superman, how he's deified by the people around him in the metropolis in the world, and they have the statues built up to him and stuff. But I digress. This issue starts in Shadow Hill, which is an ethnic neighborhood in the vicinity of Astro City. Our main character is from here. Her family is from in some sort of Eastern European country, like it's basically the old country, but she's not. And so she longs to go to the big city so she can be like more normal, you know, like have a regular life and stuff. So take note here that because her family is from the old world, her symbols are like the cross and like garlic for vampires and stuff like that, stuff that ward away evil spirits. So on her way to work one day, she is warned by a local superhero named Hangman, the tarot card. She doesn't really get what it's for, so she just kind of minds her own business and goes to work anyway. Then later at work, she talks to her co-worker and they agree to move in together. However, later they're actually attacked by like some super terrorists or something, and the main character is almost assaulted. And while she's like in his grasp and she can like smell his breath or whatever, it's all nasty, like he's like a sludge monster or something. And she holds her cross in her hand because she's thinking about her grandmother and how the cross isn't really helping her. And at the very end, she's saved by a superhero who actually happens to be her co-worker's husband. And yeah, I think it's interesting because, like I said before, it equates religion with superheroes and stuff. And if you go back to how I said before, how they're from the old country, maybe you can make an argument that superheroes are like the religion of the new country, maybe like the new world, I guess. And people make this connection sometimes, not often, I guess. But you see people talking about how superheroes are like the myth of the new age. So like compared to like Greek demigods and stuff, how like Hercules and like how you say that, Achilles, Ajax and all them, Agamemnon, how they're like the counterparts of superheroes in the new world, the new age, I guess, rather. I think that's interesting. It's a cool parallel to come between. I don't know if that's what he was going for, but I think it's interesting to think about. And that's it, I think. Yeah, that's the last issue. If you want more, I have the script in the description. That's what it is, description. So check that out. It's a lot more in depth, I think. Well, not a lot more, but there's more stuff in there. It's more content, I guess. Okay, shout out time. Good looks to Chepa, Ilios, Fed, Hakan, LaRue, Monsoon, Nichan, Nilo Bangalo, Nocto, Pi, Spider, Ska, and Velez. Especially Nocto, my script editor, and Federico, my video editor. Thank you. Also, I'm in talks with Busiek for an interview regarding this series. Talk about his thought process and mostly just deep dive on the contents we talked about in this video. Hopefully that goes well and that you see the interview in the description. It'll be text, not like a voice thing. Before I go out though, let me say that I'm working right now on a Tom King's Mr. Miracle. I'm not sure I'm going to do it after that. If you have any ideas, let me know in the comments or tweet me or something. I'm also interested in doing like historical videos about the comic industry. I was working on a script, well, really more research than a script, on the Comics Code Authority, and maybe like theoretical, conceptual videos. Not theoretical, but you know, whatever. Like how characters work and stuff, and like how I think the dynamics are important, not important, but interesting. Yeah, that's the word. Yeah. If you have any ideas, let me know. Like I said before. And hopefully I'll be back soon.